Hi, Leah. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, our pleasure. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I think it's something that's extremely important and that we haven't really talked a whole lot about and that I can kind of personally relate to as well. So I'm looking forward to our chat. If you would, could you share with our listeners a little bit about what you're currently doing with your IHP certification? And then we can talk about how you kind of got there, what you were doing before that.
So I was actually my biggest claim to fame for myself, I'm really proud of, is I'm one of the first 100 students when he first opened up the IHP, Stephen Cabral. So I went through full-time practitioner IHP, really working on the labs and doing all the fun stuff that, I was taught to do. Then, like we'll talk later on, I had to take a little bit of a break. I went part-time and then I had to go full-time break because it was a lot of work. And now I'm kind of slowly stepping back in, seeing clients, doing, very minimal, but seeing clients on a day-to-day basis.
That's great. And as far as what you were doing before this, how did you kind of find IHP? Obviously, if you were part of the first 100, it was a little bit ago, but that's a pretty good claim to fame. I would definitely
very proud.
Yeah, I would take that too. What were you doing something else, or did you just find it based on kind of your own health journey?
So I don't know if it's I feel like it's probably very common for practitioners where before the health, and unless you have health issues, I think it's very much about, I want to lose weight, learning about how your body works. And from that, realizing how deep and how huge it could go. So I started off just for myself, wanting to learn how to, lose the last few pounds. And then I got really interested in health and listening to podcasts, and it got to a point where I was that person, a friend, a family member who everyone will come to, and I'll speak for hours about, different tips where they could try. And it got to a point where people were like, do this as a living, like may as well get paid for it. Mm-hmm. So I started with, I believe it's a sports nutrition specialist. It's been so long ago. And it was basically foundational nutrition where it's about, you have this much activity during your day. This is a good way to eat. And it was very basic. And I built myself from that. So I was seeing clients just as a nutritionist, basically lose or gain weight. And then because, again, a lot of podcasts, I came across Dr. Cabral's podcast. And I loved how it was just so open-minded. And it was so, you could believe in conventional alternative medicine. And this is not how you should be doing it. But if you're like this, then this is the way to go. And it was very understanding of how you could look at so many different types of clients. Because I had people who were carnivore and people who were keto, and like not necessarily things that I would do myself or would want to tell people to do it, but it's kind of the way of how you can approach different types of clients. So that was very enlightening for me and very interesting. So the second I found out that he was making a whole course about it, and I was like, okay, I have to get on this. And it was my best decision as a practitioner.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's so like comprehensive. There's just so much like all wrapped into one that it's,
exactly
so beneficial for working with all types of people.
Yeah. And I think working in this field, you do come across a lot of doctors who have great information, but very, very like tunnel vision on one type of way of life. And I could take from what I need to take from them, but wouldn't wholeheartedly understand everything they say or really want to take in everything that they have to give to me. So it was very refreshing.
Yes. Yeah. And I always say that Dr. Cabral's approach, like he's very long game focused, right? Some people play 100%. The short game. Some people play the long game, and the short game is, the crash diets, the fad diets, the stuff that will make you feel and look really good right now. Right. But
right.
What is going to give you long-term health, long-term, weight management. And that's, I think, where like he kind of sets himself apart, and we're able to then deliver to other clients the long game information rather than short game. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So you mentioned just in kind of talking about, your little intro about IHP that you had taken a break, and then you took a longer break, and then you started back in with seeing clients. And I would love to know kind of a little bit about why you ended up taking a break, what it did kind of for, you at this point. Did you find it completely helpful? What was the main reason for you taking a break?
So, like I said, even before I was working in this field, I really loved learning about health. And the funny thing is, if you saw me back when I was a teenager in high school, I didn't pick up a pen in biology class. Like I was not interested at all. But then I guess once I got to see how it was affecting me, just, I used to have asthma and allergies, and just small health, practices really change your life. And I was just so fascinated by that. So once that fascination came in, then I just want to absorb all the information. So I think one thing that could be very common, but not really talked about, is just that how a practitioner, it's obviously important for a practitioner to have this outlook for their patients and their clients, but for themselves to be intuitive instead of, you're getting so much information in. And I think it's so important to understand how to, even with this information, not to look at it as a pragmatic kind of way of life, but really internalize and be intuitive and see what you need. So for me, I kind of was lacking that intuition. And, I'll wake up, I'll listen to a podcast while I'm brushing my teeth, and then I'll see some clients, and then I'll read some articles. And my whole day was absorbing all this information. And I think that maybe there is a stepping stone into like becoming a practitioner where you can see the whole picture. But it was just a little thing that I was lacking, was the intuition. So I had, at that point when I started working with IHP, I had my second kid, and it was a big jump going from one kid to two. And my son was 3, my daughter was just born, and that brought in a lot of mental stress. And then someone I could see now, someone who is dealing with a lot of mental stress, number one, it's something that shouldn't be ignored, especially, moms put themselves last. Mm-hmm. But I definitely ignored those signs, or definitely didn't, even though I understood that it's, what it does, what stress. And I was actually reading the Rainbow Effect when I was going through this and understanding how bad stress is on your body. But it's definitely a work in progress. And I was dealing with a lot of mental stress. And then on top of that, I was intermittent fasting, and I was, on paper, so healthy. I was doing saunas almost every day, and HIIT workouts and fasted workouts and everything that, like probably any man could do and be totally fine. But with women, obviously so much more goes into it. And I was kind of ignoring the signs. And I remember it must have been, I don't know when, but it was like definitely a few years of it being ignored, because I was like, oh, I think I have a stomach bug, or I think I have, some gut issues to take care of. And it was always, I'm sure something, why I'm feeling so sick or so blah, at the end of the day. And then one thing led to another. And those times when I was feeling bad were getting closer in time. And then it got to a point where I was chronically fatigued. I was done, with a little exertion. My hormones were out of whack. My thyroid was all over the place. And so it was, as a practitioner, it was really bad, because I was feeling like I'm not the look of health. Like I'm gaining 15 to 20 pounds. I'm looking very rugged and very tired all the time. I don't feel healthy. And I think and I'm a very empathetic person, which I'm sure a lot of healers and practitioners are. So like when you have a client who's coming to you with your same issues, it's so much emotion that goes into each client being like, no, don't do that, or don't overstress your body. And it got to a point where I'm like, you know what, I need to really take a break. And I was working part-time, because I was like, I could, with these clients I have, I could work on. But it was really hard when someone was like, I need a quick fix. I want to lose 20 pounds in the next month, because I really want to, and you have to be like, no. Like, and you want to really like pamper them, tell them, don't do the same things I did. And, but it's a lot that you have to kind of distance yourself and see it in a very, people are going to come with these, wants and needs. And you really have to know how to take the emotion out of it, take yourself out of it, and see it as, I guess try to find a way that you could connect with them without bringing all your emotion in. So I definitely had to take that break while I was healing, because also trying to heal yourself while trying to heal others and trying to learn about everything, it was just a lot. So what I thought was going to be like a few months break. It was probably 2 years altogether. It went from part-time to not at all. Kind of went off social media just because I even just posting about health, I was like, I think I just needed a break. But then it really gave me that time to personally heal, to work out my hormones, work out my thyroid. Thank God I got pregnant, healthy pregnant, healthy baby. So it was like a statement to show how things were working out fully. And now I'm kind of in the clear head where I'm like, okay, it's not such an emotional journey for me every single time I see a client. I'm understanding and intuitive to see how I'm supposed to treat myself the same way I kind of treated my clients, in a very understanding, intuitive way. And yeah, it's been a journey, but it's been the best thing I could have gone through as a practitioner, and life lessons, this past few years. It was hard, but it was worth it after the fact.
Yes. Yeah. Because I think we can get so caught up in the, showing up for other people. And I think women are kind of just hardwired in this way because of like that motherly instinct, right? And when you are a mother, you're kind of just like already in this loop of like, I'll help you, I'll help you, I'll help you, I'll help you. And then we end up kind of forgetting that we're not exactly helping ourselves, but it's usually like we're able to love and give acceptance and, that real supportive emotion to everybody else except for ourselves. It's like, oh, no, but I should be doing more workouts and I should get in that sauna because it doesn't matter how hard my day has been, and it's really about learning to love and support ourselves as much as we can love and support other people.
100%.
Because that's when we get drained, right? If we're not filling our cup and it's just like getting, spilled out everywhere else, then we're not able to kind of show up for other people the way, and it comes in forms of burnout, right? You can kind of feel like, oh, this is like burning me out. I can't do this anymore. And it's really because the energy reserves aren't there. Yeah.
And the hard thing is that it's so hard to catch it before, especially the first time, because unless you you see how bad stress is, mental, physical stress is on your body, it's kind of too late. So it's really understanding and getting in that information beforehand to prevent this from happening.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And having systems in place to kind of, when you listen to an episode like this, right? Or you have like other coaching mentors, like now when knowing what I know and you knowing what you could say to a new coach, hey, listen, like it's possible that this ends up, you end up getting to the point where you feel really burned out if you're not doing X, Y, and Z for yourself. Because you've, seen the with hindsight, you're able to kind of tell somebody that. And so then having systems in place is a really important way to prevent it from getting there. What are all the ways you're showing up for yourself? And not, I think you kind of made a comment about how you were listening to a podcast when you got up and then you were reading, right? It is a field where you can become like obsessive almost.
For sure. Because there's never ending amount of studies that are coming out. And so it's consistent.
Yes. And just when you think like you believe one thing, something comes out that contradicts that. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I really respect this person. And now they're saying like, you shouldn't be doing this. Let me look into that a little bit further. And it's amazing in the sense of like all that education that's at our fingertips, but it can, if you allow yourself to kind of get too obsessed with it, it can kind of take a pretty tight grip. Would you agree?
For sure. One thing that was very interesting when I was going through my healing, I was looking at all different types of like healers, energy healers, all of that stuff. And I had one guy that told me, he's like, what's your biggest fear? So I think a lot of practitioners, when you're interested in health, one of the is being sick because this is your way of controlling. So he's like, so again, so you're trying to control not being sick, so you're being healthy. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, and while trying so hard to control that, you're making yourself sick. So it's really that cycle of trying so hard to act upon all these things that you're learning that you're just literally making yourself sick. And it's just such a counterproductive thing. And like, when I shouldn't be eating now because it's, I'm going to gain weight, or I'm, my body didn't digest that food properly, and you're being so pragmatic about it, it's very hard to internalize, I shouldn't work out this morning because it's just going to make my body inflamed. And like that part doesn't really internalize with your body, but the other parts do. And it's very interesting. And again, I'm learning all of this along the way, and it's just a fascinating thing to go through, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I think society has maybe programmed this a little bit, right? But it's also, we can think like, I'm obsessed with all of like the good things. Like I'm being a little bit obsessive about working out and eating healthy and doing sauna. Like, what could I possibly be doing wrong? Like I'm doing good things versus being obsessed with unhealthy things. Right. But just as the practitioner, said to you, any amount of rigidity in the body, right? Any amount of like stressful type of perspective on things is going to make the body perceive it as stress. I mean, I have so many clients that say like, yeah, I've been like doing this and that, but like, honestly, I just hate salads. And like, I'm like, okay, stop eating salad. Stop eating. If you sit down to a meal that you absolutely hate and you are forcing it into your mouth, your body is not getting the good nutrients from that anyway, because it's getting the message that like, this is something bad from your state of mind. It's not going to digest it well if you're agitated. Eat something else. You'd be way better eating something else that you enjoyed, that put you in a happy state, that was a little bit less healthy. I'm not telling them to, go have a piece of cake, but something that is not a salad and still has healthy components to it, but that you enjoy, right? Because then that will be perceived from your body in a much different way. And it's no different than like all of the things that we can do. When you were in the place of, kind of not being super kind and gentle to yourself, I'm sure you were showing up as a kind and gentle practitioner to your clients.
Of course. Yeah.
And it can kind of be a little bit of this, when you're conscious of it, I think like when you can kind of see what's happening, right? Then it can almost fuel, or at least this is how it happened at one point for me. Like, then I got angry. I was like, oh, I'm like doing, like, I can do it for other people and I can't do it for myself. And then I would get really frustrated and really angry. And that was when I knew I needed to work on myself. That was when I knew I needed to find, why am I so hard on myself? Why can I give other people what I'm not willing to give myself? And where is the thing, right, that needs to be worked on?
For sure. Yeah. I would see my conversations with my clients I'll be like, you don't have to be perfect. You could do this and it'll be better for you. And just my mannerisms and what I will be telling them would never go into myself and what I should be doing. I always had to be, perfect and do everything correctly. And, I would see their progression and how well they're doing. And, they'll tell me that I don't deal with bloating anymore and I feel great and I lost 5 pounds and, so energized. And while I'm seeing all that, all the positive outcome, I'm like getting, what I'm giving to myself, which was, all the imbalances and it's really, again, it's hard to catch at the beginning, but after a while you see patterns and you're like, yeah, I have to change something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's a big energetic shift when you and I think a little bit of what this episode is, what I hope somebody takes from this episode is it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to take a break, especially when it's to take care of yourself so that you can come back a better practitioner for your clients. Because oftentimes, unless you really outsource a lot of your care, which I absolutely recommend, by the way, right? There's so much benefit in getting another coach's perspective, whether it's, emotional and mental support, whether it's somebody to look at your labs, whether it's somebody because it's so hard to work on ourselves the same way we can kind of objectively see somebody else.
Yeah. No, I'll look at my lab results before it comes to you. And it wouldn't be like I wouldn't understand. I either would look at it very like intensely of like, okay, this and this and this, but then I'll speak to a practitioner and you'll be like, oh, you have to look at the whole picture, and you'll do it in a very like understanding way, which you can never look at. There's too much information going on with yourself. I think that it's very important as a practitioner to like, sometimes you don't have to know everything, and to understand what's going on. And I think that was very helpful for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And you get not only the, overview picture, right? But you get somebody to tell you, it's okay.
Right.
You don't have to be perfect. It's okay to, do this and not that, and make sure you're prioritizing, your sleep instead of getting an eighth workout in for the week, right? It's somebody else giving you permission to do things differently, so that you can kind of take care of yourself in a way that you would coach another client to take care of themselves.
No, for sure. And I think it's also very important as a practitioner, first of all, like you said, to take a break. I think that's very important. But if you, like for me, like I said before, I saw myself as, I'm not the face of health anymore. What can I possibly tell my clients? And kind of shut down like that, where I could have really, and that's why I kind of want to get back into it, because now I have all this information that someone else who's going through this, who's going through, like chronic fatigue is something that is so looked over, especially in the conventional medicine, where every time I speak to a conventional doctor, it's like, I know I have something like chronic fatigue, because I know that people dismiss it very quickly. So there's not enough information of personal information. So if you do feel like, you don't care to share, because, sometimes privacy is good and it's good to deal with your stuff and then kind of after you digested it. But some things, like I look at back and I was like, there's so much more information as someone who isn't the face of health right now. There's so many lessons I could be sharing and teaching people and telling people, and how to get back from chronic fatigue and estrogen dominance, or, hypothyroidism, and all these different things that I was working with, instead of being like, ugh, people don't want to hear from me. I think there's so many lessons that you could actually be sharing and helping people. So that's one reason why I was like, I feel like I could finally get back a little back into this field and speak about it. And hopefully someone will learn a thing or two.
Yes.
What not to do.
Yes. And if we go, that's, it kind of like comes full circle, right? You're now accepting that you are not perfect. None of us are perfect. And that your value is not tied into that, right? Your value is not linked to how perfect you have done something or what your body looks like, right? You are a work in progress, because we all are. And you still have valuable information to share. I did an interview with a gentleman a long time ago. He worked with a business coach, and he was talking about how, when he was saying like, I don't like have really like this certification and that certification yet. Like, I'm not sure I should start seeing clients, and, like, I know all of this. And he was kind of like essentially telling the business coach why he hadn't like gotten started yet. And the business coach stopped him and he said, listen, he said, you are putting your selfish ego in front of what people need. If you don't start helping people, it's a crime. Like, you know so much more than you think you need to know to start helping people. And if this is truly what you want to do, and this is your purpose, start now. Like, stop holding back because you aren't feeling like you're, perfect yet, or you're just like, the right place to start. And he kind of called
definitely,
it like,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of fake until you make it, like that confidence that you have to be like, everyone starts off somewhere, and just having that part to say, it's okay if I have to retract some things I said, because especially like we said in the health field, so many new studies coming out, and you're going to have to be kind of put away your ego and be like, I don't really believe in this because this study shows this. And it's like a lot that you don't want to seem fraudulent or like you're still learning, but that's this field. And you have to kind of, like you said, put away your ego and be like upfront with people and transparent, and be like, it's okay that I might make a few mistakes, but to kind of throw yourself into this field and learn while you're there.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, at least speaking for myself, if I was a client of a coach and the client said to me, like, listen, I've been working out like crazy. I've been doing sauna every day. I've been doing keto. I looked great for about 3 to 4 months and now I'm crashing. And I just told you to do that. And you've been doing it for 4 weeks, but you know what? I don't know. I don't know if this is the best approach. Why don't we get a little bit more conservative? I don't want you to end up in this same position. I didn't think that this was going to happen. Right. But, allowing that vulnerability with clients and, doing it in a professional manner, but being honest, right? People love honest connection and having a little bit of the, not trying to look like the perfect, model of health and being like, listen, I've been there and I don't know if we want to continue down this path because this is kind of where I ended up. I think they would appreciate that. Right. But it's more about getting comfortable with the idea of doing that with ourselves.
Yes. I think it's definitely a learning practice as a practitioner to kind of push yourself a bit in that area.
Yes. Yeah. So I sometimes ask the coach that I'm talking with, like if they had a specific struggle that they went through, starting their business. But I think we already talked about that.
That was my biggest struggle, definitely.
Yeah. What would you say the biggest thing that you learned in, whether it be like in the struggle period itself, whether it be when you were on, took a break, whether it would be when you came back? Is there some like sort of takeaway that another coach would kind of benefit from you touching on?
Well, I think we both, touched on the topic. One was, kind of stepping back and learning from a bit of a distance of how you could, what you need at that moment. I would literally listen to, like, see my podcast that came out the next day. I just couldn't bring myself to listen to it and really being like, it's okay. I'm not going to listen to it. And it sounds really interesting, but I'm like, it's right now, it's not beneficial. So really being able to give you that space when you need it. Because this field, even though it is very, on paper, very practical, but there's so much emotion and so much energy that goes with it. And if you want to be, at your best, you really have to know, I guess, like a parent or anything, that you really have to know when you have to give yourself that break and that little recharge moment. Mm-hmm. So I think that was one of my lessons I learned. It's okay to take this break. It's very important to understand what I so-called did wrong. But again, like I said, I really appreciate this time that I had to go through that, because you can never really understand. And now I have, from personal experience, how I can help any type of client that might come to me with similar stuff that they're struggling with. But then I think also it's now I'm getting back in that spot of being like, now I need to jump back into it. Before it was so seamless and natural, and now I'm so frigid and I'm like, what do? I want to do this, I want to do that. And kind of, like you said, kind of put away all those thoughts that are rambling up in your brain and really just put away your ego and be like, this is what I love and this is what I want to do, and kind of throw yourself in, and then you could like adjust along the way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we kind of touched upon this a little bit at the beginning, and we're both mothers. And when you're kind of juggling all of, the mothering stuff along with it, and little kids, and there's seasons of that where stuff changes, right? Where you're sleep deprived, or where you're, and yeah, kind of piecing it all together as you go, and making adjustments and not being so hard on yourself, right? If there's times where you're going to step back and then like, okay, this is a good time where I'm going to ramp up again, and being just gentle with the fact that it's a process.
Yeah. And I want to say that I know that not everyone has that luxury to just take a break. So for me, I was very lucky that I had a good support team, that I was able to take that break, like part-time and full-time, but in kind of take a break in the way that you can. So if that means, not, exerting yourself in, at the gym, kind of doing Pilates or yoga, or like different ways that you could internalize or personalize your way of taking a break. Whatever that may mean. If it means less social time because you needed a little bit more of you time, and obviously everything about Dr. Cabral is by individuality, so obviously in your own way of how it can benefit you. But for me, I was lucky that I was able to really take, healing mentally, physically, kind of forcefully. Like I had to take a break. But then, and also like when you do take a break in the way that you can, don't sit around and catastrophize. And, I really had to find other things to fill in my day, like other hobbies or things I could work on so I'm not sitting there being like, woe is me, I'm so sick, I'm gaining weight, I'm looking sick, have no energy, I can't work out, and I love working out. And really doing something that keeps your mind busy, because sitting around doing nothing won't be beneficial either. I really, again, these are all lessons I learned along the way, because I was sitting around doing nothing and being like, feeling like I have no control. Like when you can tell someone this is what you need to do in order to get your body healthy. And I was just at that point of being like, I have no control. So sitting around waiting, I'll give my lab tests in and doing what I have to do. But then once I do that, I have to fill in the days in other ways that are enjoyable and happy and like bring other things into your life that will fill in the blanks.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you brought that up. Not everybody from a financial, standpoint can just stop or take a break. But I think some of the points that we made about like, the amount of information that's coming in, right? If you can't take a break from your clients, maybe you take a break with what you're reading and what you're, all of the other extra things that are causing a lot of noise and stress in your head. Yeah. And kind of working on, supporting your own nervous system through working with clients and not kind of making it noisier, I think is a great way to do it if you can't, pull back.
You're right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if someone's listening and they kind of want to connect more or find out more about you, where are all the places that you show up, whether it be social media or websites, any places?
So like I said, I'm getting slowly back into it. So now hopefully I'll have, a little bit of a busier social media, but everything is at by Leah R, Leahr. And that's Instagram, TikTok. I'm trying to get into that field. And I used to have a podcast, which I spoke to also great practitioners, which hopefully I'm going to be starting up again. So that is Pick a Topic with Leah Rice. It's been a while. But yeah, Pick a Topic with Leah Rice. I will be on all, Spotify, Apple. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm like, this really helped me get back into the field and get excited all over again.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes we get more energy, right? We think that like we have to like keep doing to build energy, but sometimes just pulling back a little helps to kind of give us more energy. You like it's that, rubber band. If you pull it back, usually it'll go farther.
Yeah. Yes, I'm hoping.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. This was so great and I appreciate you being here.
This was so much fun. My pleasure. Bye.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.